This is a plastic bottle, and I'm pretty certain that most people would define it as artificial. But before humans got their hands on it, this bottle was just oil. Oil that's composed out of dead fossils that sank to the ocean millions of years ago and through extreme compression and heat got turned into the substance that makes your car go vroom. And even though we might associate oil with environmental destruction and human greed, it is, by definition, something natural. But when does it stop being natural? Well, in this case, it's pretty simple. The oil stops being natural when we turn it into plastic. The line that the oil crossed to become artificial is abundantly clear. However, that's not always the case. See, even though we might consider ourselves unnatural now, actually we are the defining factor in something not being natural. With our cars, buildings and Twitter, there was a time when we weren't. A time where humans were still as much as part of nature as you would consider something like a deer to be now. Back in the days when we used to live in caves. Back when we didn't have apartment buildings and airplanes and rockets, and used to be creatures of the wild, hunting and gathering like any other animal. So the interesting question here is, how did we stop? How did we as a species cross the line defined in the dictionaries that our future selves would write? Where did we stop being oil and started being plastic? To figure out more about when we exited the realm of nature, and most importantly if there was a good or bad thing, I will first look at probably the most obvious difference between a human and an animal. Our houses. In the earliest epochs of humanity, survival depended on the ability to seek shelter from the elements. Our first constructive endeavors looked like this. This hut was found in France about 400,000 years BC. And it's considered one of the first human houses. And even though they may not look like much, these simple structures laid the groundwork for pretty much all architectural milestones that would later be met by human civilization. One of the most important ones happened during the Industrial Revolution and the invention of the steel frame construction, which allowed us to build the first skyscrapers. Concrete giants that no animal could ever dream of constructing, monuments of a never-before-seen domination of the world around us. So we might look at our complicated cities and egoistically think that nothing could prove our superiority over nature more than those, but I think we're wrong. See, cities were part of nature much, much longer than they were part of humans. Now, this next part might sound a little stupid, but hang with me. Picture an anthill. What do you see? A small mound of sand and crumbly dirt poking up through the lawn, a tiny hole disappearing into the ground, a few ants scrambling around busily. Not very impressive, right? Well, this is what an anthill looks like from a different perspective than a human one's. And every single branch you see here has a specific function. Some provide storage for food, some nurseries for their young, some graveyards for their old, heck, they even have fungus farms. These are not just burrows, they are underground cities, and some of them home millions of individuals, reaching as far as 7 meters underground. This kind of construction would be incredible for any species, and considering that the ones who pulled it off don't grow larger than your fingernail, can we really say that cities are something that only humans could do? Who do we think we are to say that our construction is somehow above nature, when what we consider nature almost does it better than us? War has been a part of human history pretty much since its beginning. And even though some aspects overlap with the animal kingdom, like the collective pursuit of victory, protection of kin, and defense of territory, that do echo primal instincts deeply ingrained in our evolutionary history, it also underscores profound distinctions between humans and animals. Unlike the instinct-driven conflicts in the animal kingdom, human warfare is often characterized by complex motivations, ideologies, and strategies. Our capacity for planning, organization, and technological innovation enables us to wage wars on a scale unprecedented in nature. Moreover, the moral and ethical dimensions of warfare, including considerations of justice, morality, and the impact on civilian populations, reflect uniquely human concerns. This point gets even more clear when you factor in things like religious beliefs, which just by themselves are an incredible concept that we have named our own, but also things like racism. The belief that a different colored member of a species has less worth than the other, because when a lion kills another lion, he does it to eliminate a threat. We are the only animal that kills a fellow member of its species out of nothing but pure hatred. Which depressingly highlights the capacity for destruction and suffering that sets us apart from other species. The consequences of war, both imminent and long-term, extend far beyond the battlefield, affecting individuals, societies, and ecosystems in profoundly destructive ways. And it was truly sad to realize that the pain that we can inflict within ourselves might be what defines us as a natural the most. Well, I have to say this topic was the one I was most excited to research. Thinking of the range of human emotions and psychology is incredibly fascinating, and it gets even more interesting when you think about if we are even supposed to feel the way that we feel. And I'm definitely kind of happy and not at all scared to go a little bit deeper into that. So let's look at love. For animals, it is still very instinct-based, so it mostly serves for reproduction and social exception, like a wolf pack or something. But I'd say, as humans always do, we made it quite a bit more complicated. For humans, it involves deep interpersonal connections, and it takes a lot for a person to love another person. And if you look at how modern dating is going, I'd say it's pretty complicated and most of all difficult and painful to find and especially maintain. Which doesn't mean that human love is in any way not amazing when it's experienced, but what it does mean is that seeing as love in nature is just purely practical. The form that we practice is at least a bit inefficient. Speaking of, let's talk about fear. Probably our most natural emotion. Animals still experience it mostly as a survival mechanism, alerting them to potential dangers and triggering fight or flight responses. Humans, on the other hand, have been able to feel fear for not just physical threats like heights or someone pointing a gun at you, but also existential concerns, like what you're doing with your future and things like death or commitment. Which begs the question, are we actually supposed to be able to think and feel this much? I mean, what kind of fucking sick joke is it that I can have a cat that can be completely happy just by eating something and going out once or twice a month and sleeping the rest of the time, and I have to sit here and write scripts for schoolworks at 2 a.m. in the morning, while wondering how I'm gonna keep myself happy for about 30 years to come. But I think the capacity that we have to almost kill ourselves with how much we can think and feel also has its good sides. The concept of beauty, for instance. I mean, it does sort of exist in the animal kingdom, but it's more of an appreciation, like a squirrel appreciating having found a nut. Finding something beautiful for no apparent reason other than just the fact that it's beautiful is kind of a uniquely human thing. And I still find it fascinating to think about the fact that we can appreciate things like music, which at its core, it's just rhythmic air pressure changing. But for some inexplainable reason, we can like it, not like it. It can make us extremely happy, and it can make us extremely sad. And it can remind us of our youth, or our ex, or whatever. But it's still just air pressure changing. And I don't know many other animals that can appreciate things like that. Another mind-blowing thing is the fact that we can create art. Not just like the physical coordination that someone has to paint a painting, which is also quite incredible, but the fact that someone can feel emotions so complex and so nuanced that they can't really be expressed through words and have to flow into something like a painting or a weird documentary that you're writing at 2 a.m. And maybe someone else might look at it and without knowing you, without even speaking a single word to you, and without really knowing why, can feel the exact same thing and kind of understood. I had this moment recently where I was in a museum and I saw my first Van Gogh painting, and I still can't quite put my finger on what exactly I felt in that moment, but just staring at those flowers that he drew, I don't know, I felt like I had talked to him, which is something really weird to say considering that I was just kind of looking at some oil. But I think there's more to explore there, and I think being able to do that is kind of a gift. Yeah, I mean, it kind of is a gift. And I know we aren't natural, I mean, that's been pretty clear, but are you really just gonna sit there and be sad because you can feel that much more pain and think so much? And I don't know, I guess your Tinder matches are pretty shit as well. Or you can go outside, look at a sunset, and think about that this beautiful thing has absolutely no practical use for you, and you can still look at it and sink in the beautiful pink sky and the glowing orange clouds and feel happiness inside. And if you can't do that, I don't think you're alive. And oh my god, what am I still doing here? I'm wasting my life. Shit, yeah, fuck this script. You know what? Fuck this entire video. I don't like this. This makes no sense to me. Fuck you, Pat. You can't feel anything. You don't even know what a sunset is. I'm not supposed to be writing a goddamn video right now. I should be out there in the world. Oh my god, what have I been doing all this time? I need to go and live my life.
Luis, was machst du?
Ich kann das Leben schätzen.
Es ist 3 am Morgen.
Ich weiss, Mami, aber ich will trotzdem gehen.
Okay. Hast du Unterhose nicht?
Nein.